Hey everybody, welcome to our another regularly scheduled research update of different papers and studies and things coming out about lipedema or of something that's important to people who have lipedema. I'm Leslyn Keith. I'm with the Lipedema Project, and I like to meet with you every first and third Thursday, usually, unless something else happens and we need to reschedule, but twice a month that I'm talking to you about different papers and things coming out that I think are important for you to know, or at least really interesting. And as always, I like to ask you if you have a paper you want to make sure that I haven't missed and you'd like me to discuss at one of these regularly scheduled meetings. Let me know, and you can email me at leslyn@lipedemaproject.org. I'd love to hear from you. And I do have quite a few papers in the queue that I want to get to, but sometimes someone sends me something that I want to move to the front of the queue. So go ahead and send me anything you'd like me to address here. There is just so much coming out in the last 5 years about lipedema. I mean, this is becoming more well known, and people are more interested in it, and they're studying it. So let me know if you think I've missed something. And to you that are posting on the post right here, that you're here with me live, thank you for that. I love knowing that people are listening live, although this is always available on the replay if you're not able to be here at the time that I air. So Kathleen and Be Humble, thank you for posting and letting me know you're here. And so today, the paper that I decided to look at was one about genetics, because we're always looking at, is there a genetic foundation to lipedema? So this paper is called A Family-Based Study of Inherited Genetic Risk in Lipedema. And this was out of a group of researchers in Australia. And two groups have been really looking at genetics and doing some wonderful studies. One is this group in Australia, and the other is as a group in Italy. So we've just had some really good work in this area. Of course, it's just the beginning. It's just preliminary. Genetic research is very difficult. It is costly, and it's hard to get enough subjects. And to be able to have the funds to analyze the genetics of all those subjects. So this one is actually the largest one to date, the largest pool of people that they were looking at for this one, but we're hoping for even larger ones. So this one, they said the authors wanted to learn more about the genetic predisposition to lipedema. And then they wanted to look at it in both people that have it and also their unaffected family members. So within the same family, they wanted to look at the genes of the people who are actually expressing. You can see that they have lipedema. They've been diagnosed with lipedema, and the people in the family that are not expressing it. What's happening in that comparison? What can we learn by comparing all those? What they did say too is they acknowledged that genetics of lipedema is poorly understood, even though there is a family history. When we interview women with lipedema and we're asking about their family history, 60 to 80%, this is what's been reported in other papers, 60 to 80% talk about that there seems to be a family history of lipedema. Could be either from their mother's or their father's side, that they're seeing other people that seem to exhibit the characteristics, if not officially diagnosed with lipedema. It seems to be happening within the family 60 to 80% of the time. So that's a lot, and that really leans us towards wanting to look at genetics. And as I said already, this paper reports to be the largest family-based sequencing study to date by this group in Australia. The authors say that they hope that this better understanding about genetics is going to lead to an earlier and more accurate diagnosis of lipedema, and thus getting the person onto better treatment, so in a more timely fashion. So what are the methods they did on this study? DNA samples were received and analyzed from 31 individuals from 9 families. doesn't seem like that big, but yet this is the largest to date. So 31 individuals from 9 different families. And this is the first ever that they had 2 of the people with lipedema in this study were part of twins. So 2 of those people were twins, and they were identical twins, and they both had their lipedema express when they were 14. So wow, does that really add a lot to the depth of our understanding when we have twins involved in the study. So, and I had to look up some stuff in this study because the terms are not things that I'm familiar with, but they had something called gene ontology analysis of filtered variants. Oh boy. So this was this was an analysis that they were doing of this gene pool of all this genetic information that they got from these 31 participants. And so the goal of this particular analysis is they're looking at certain biological processes and molecular functions and cellular components that seem to be overrepresented among genetic material that might be predisposing people towards lipedema. And so these variants seem to show up a lot in this group. And so that was kind of the direction of their study. So just a little bit of a look at the participants themselves, these 31 participants. 10 of those participants actually had lipedema. And so in each of the 9 family groups, they had one person who had lipedema, except that in the case of the twins, they had 2 people that had lipedema. And then the rest of the participants, 20 to be exact, were family members that did not have lipedema. But one, it said they were unsure if that one person had lipedema. So in one of the family groups, they had the one person with lipedema, and I think 1 or 2 others that were unaffected family members. But one of the family members, I think it was an undiagnosed person. They were wondering, is this actually someone who has lipedema? So, and then the other information they gave us about the participants was when they experienced onset of lipedema symptoms. I told you the twins, it started when they were 14, and that was actually that age range of about 13 to 19 was the most common period of onset. There was only 2 people that happened outside of that age range, which you think that's pretty close to puberty, if not at puberty. And although 19 is a little bit late, but still around that puberty time. So the 2 other people, I think one was 37 and one was 50. The person at 50 probably was perimenopause, and 37 was kind of an in-between time. They didn't say, but I mean, that could be a time that there could have been a pregnancy or something like that. So not too sure with the other 2, but most of the people, it seemed like the onset was around puberty. So let's look at the results. So one of the major results was that they did not identify any single gene that had a variant or a mutation that could be responsible for lipedema. And this is actually what we found in other studies. We have not yet found any single gene. And they also didn't find a single gene that was in each of the family groups, in all 9 of the family groups. That didn't happen. But they did have, looking up from my notes, because there were 75 variants that they found in multiple families. So that was interesting. But no variant was identified in more than 4 of the 9. So you can see there was a lot of, these people all shared this 16 and these 18 over here. So there was a lot of overlap, but there wasn't a single variant that seemed to show up in all 9 families. The most that they had for consistency was 4 of the families. So it tells you there's a lot more work to be done. But some other things that they found, and again, I had to look up some of these terms, and when we're looking at those variants and the things that those variants could potentially cause to be expressed in the person, they found 3 things that seemed to be consistent with everybody is that they had an overrepresentation of the gene variants that lead to vasopressin receptor activity, microfibril binding, and patched binding. And so what are those, do you ask? Well, vasopressor receptor activity, so this is receptors to that particular hormone, vasopressin. So we have maybe too much or too little of those receptors. And vasopressin is a hormone that does some interesting things that can easily be linked to lipedema. It regulates many bodily functions, including blood pressure, kidney function, fluid balance. All these things could have an impact on lipedema if you're having too few or too many receptors and causing too much of an action or not enough action of vasopressin. So that is something that would be really interesting to follow up on and see if vasopressin is important in lipedema, another hormone that I hadn't considered. And then the other one was microfibril binding. And the authors brought up that they thought this would be interesting, and the other patch binding, because these have an acknowledged role in connective tissue function. And we're learning that lipedema has a connective tissue component into it. Some people are even calling it a connective tissue disorder. So these variants should be studied further. But really, the main thing that the authors came up with is that this really shows the complexity of the genetic profile of lipedema, or the propensity towards lipedema. And it's a cluster of things, and it could be for each person with lipedema, or there could be different variants, different phenotypes for this cluster of genes gives you this kind of lipedema, this cluster gives you that kind of lipedema. And that's why we have such a huge variant of presentation of lipedema. You've often seen our presentations where we're talking about lipedema, and we show this one slide with, I mean, everybody looking completely different, but they all have lipedema. So that it could be that there is such a varied genetic profile for it. And then, as the authors in this paper say, combined with environmental influences. So could be lifestyle, could be diet, could be where you live. I mean, all these other influences that that cause whether or not certain genes you have to be expressed. I mean, you could have a gene that gives you a high chance of getting diabetes, but unless you eat a high carb diet, you would still never get diabetes. So there could be something like that with lipedema, that if you don't have the environment that supports you getting lipedema, you might still have the gene cluster that can give you the propensity for it, but you may not get it. And that's why it's interesting to see what is the genetic profile of other people in the family who are not showing that they have lipedema. All very interesting stuff, but we're just in the infancy of this. They said, of course, our study was limited with too few people. And of course, we want to have this ginormous, study sample size that would really help. They also said that it would be really good if we did a process known as whole genome sequencing that was performed on a larger group of patients with lipedema, and also something called single cell sequencing. Okay, none of these things I know anything about, but they wanted to do more in-depth look at this, and maybe we'll come up with more answers. But this is really a wonderful start to that. So that is the paper I wanted to talk about today. And I do have a couple announcements, but I'm just doing a quick look in what people are posting. I see Becky and Nancy here. Winetta is here from Anchorage. Francine, nice to have you again. I haven't seen you in a while. Kristen, thanks for coming. Oh, Gail is here. Thank you. And Christine from Peterborough. And and Francine is saying, I think she has it in her family. Jazz on the Moon. I don't know if anyone with lipedema, my family, I don't know of anyone in my family, and nobody can remember of anyone affected. But I'm personally just glad I'm not going to have children. I don't want to pass it on to anyone. And you know what? It is a conundrum, it's with young women who know that they're one of the lucky ones that gets diagnosed as a young person. That is something that they consider. And what I would say to that young woman, if you do decide to have children, and you don't have to, but if you do, just realize that environment may have just as big of an impact as genetics. And so it doesn't mean that automatically your female children are doomed to have lipedema. That is definitely not the case. There are many people that are the only one that they can think of or know of in their family. So maybe that the environment wasn't, it wasn't there for those people and, for the rest of their family, but it was there for them. So consider that genetics is not everything with lipedema, but it's probably part of the equation. And Sherry's here from South Florida. Thanks for coming. And Kendra from Vermont. And Juanetta says she's done the whole genome sequencing. Fantastic. And Be Humble thinks that her mom had it too. And Kathy's here from New Jersey. Hello. And Marilee here from the Pacific Northwest. I think it's Chehalis, isn't it, Marilee, if I'm remembering right? And Esther, she knows she got it from her father's side. So this is interesting. And it usually is not expressed in a way that we understand in males. But it can still seem like the genes can go down through the male side and then get expressed in the female offspring. Yes, and it may be that more males have lipedema, but the way that it's expressed, we're not recognizing or diagnosing it as lipedema because the hormonal as well as other physiological processes are so different in males versus females that it could, again, that environment factor, it could mean that it's expressed in a completely different way. And so, again, more to look at on that side. And Sherry says probably her mother's side too. So really interesting thing to look at with genes, and we'll continue to bring you papers that come out about this and see if we can answer more of our questions. As seems to happen with a lot of research, you kind of answer one question, but then you get 10 more, right? Which makes research so interesting and fun to pursue. I want to share with you just a couple of announcements. One for sure that I can remember is that we do, in just about 6 weeks, we have our next heart-to-heart virtual event conference coming up. It's going to be September 27, 28, 29. And right now we are still having the early bird special. So sign up now before that goes away, because it's only $97 for 3 full days of conversation, interaction. This is not like your typical event where you just sit and listen to experts talk. You are interacting as much as you wish with those experts, with other attendees, with people who are there as sponsors. Anybody who's there, you're in the same room with them. This is not like, I'm sure you've been to some of those Zoom webinars where you can't see all the other attendees. Well, this one, it's like you're in a Zoom meeting. You can see everybody who's there. And you can personally chat to one person privately, but you also, any speaker or sponsor or attendee who puts something in the chat, they can have it go to everyone. And so you're part of that discussion. We're going to have breakout rooms and lots of stuff. So please join us. Love to have you there. It's going to be a fabulous event. This one is really, we're talking about that holistic approach and all the things that we can do to support lipedema. If you are a certified lymphedema therapist and you're not so sure how you can best help your patients with lipedema, come to this. You're going to get ideas, things you're going to want to pursue. We're going to be talking about things that have been supremely effective with other people with lipedema, and maybe also have lymphadema as well. And so you can be there to understand and learn about these things, and maybe add them to your practice and help more people with this condition. So I hope you will go right away to follow that link that we have below, find out more, and register. And consider that upgrade to premium access, because with that, you will get all the replays, so that if you're not able to be in front of your computer for the entire weekend, you can watch stuff later. Or, as happens a lot with me, you may need to re-watch some of the presentations in order to get the most out of it. So consider getting that, because not only do you get replays, but you get a lot of other extra perks for that premium access. It's more than you would get from just the general admission. So I do hope to see you there. And then Linda says, what is your email to send a paper suggestion to? I hope this means you have a paper to send me, Linda. So we'll put it up here again. It's leslyn@lipedemaproject.org. I think it might also be even posted below this video. So you should be able to send me a paper to that. Yes, we're getting it posted below. Leslyn@lipedemaproject.org. So please send me, and if you have any questions, I do have the link to this paper that I talked about today. That is below, and it's an open access. So you have access to the entire paper through that link that I gave you. But if you have any trouble getting to it, email me. Happy to send you my copy of the paper. And thank you all for being here live. We have quite a schedule with all of these lives that we do with the community, and some of you come to all of them. I know it keeps you pretty busy. So one more thing, announcement I wanted to make sure that you are aware. At the Lipedema Project, there's a little button on the home page of our provider directory, and if you follow that button, it takes you to a map of the world. And you zoom in on whatever part of the world you are in, and you can see what providers are in your area. Below the map, it shows you can look at, I think it says surgeon, probably says therapist, physician. I mean, it has different categories. And so you can check all the categories and see whoever is in your area, or maybe you're specifically looking for a surgical option. You want to go to someone who knows about doing surgeries for lipedema, then you can just check that box and find a provider that knows about lipedema. Now, you have to realize that we have not personally vetted everybody is on here. This is a list of providers from the community. People contact us and say, I went to this person. They really helped me. I like this person. Put them on the map. And so realize that you have to do your own homework. Just because they're on the map doesn't mean they're the right person for you. And one more comment about our event that's coming up in September. We are going to be having speakers, and the topic of surgery is going to be coming up. Even though our holistic approach, that we don't always focus on the surgical option, but that is in the realm of things that could be done to help lipedema. And it has helped quite a few patients with lipedema. So we will be discussing surgery. And so if you're interested in learning more about the surgical option, another good reason to come to our event. So you can see my email again there. Leslyn@lipedemaproject.org. B. Humble said, where is that located? I'm thinking you're asking, where is the event located? I think it is virtual. So it is located in your living room. So be sure. And if you're looking for the link, where is that link located? Look below this video. It's harder, I think, if you're on your phone. So you might, if you're on your phone, you need to, once you get able to look on your desktop computer, it'll be easier for you to locate, and you will see that link to take you to our event registration and more information. Okay. Oh, where is the map located? Thank you. And the map is located, if you go to our website, lipedemaproject.org, and you're on that home page, look up in the upper right-hand corner, and I think it says provide a directory or find a doctor or something like that. One of the buttons up in the upper right says something like that. I might say find a doctor is what it says. And so you click on that and then it gives you the map. So, and Summer says, great map, thank you. Okay, so, zoom into your part of the world. Okay, and it's called Find a Doctor, the button in the upper right. So check that out. It is an excellent resource. And remember, it was put together by you. You gave us these names and the information about these providers. And then we put them on the map, and we're always adding to it. Let us know if you have someone that you feel like it would be of service to other people and it's not on the map. Let us know, and we'll add them. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here with me. I look forward to seeing you again at my next research update.